So when people come to the museum, we show a 20-minute video to give people a good overview of the founding of the settlement. And then we talk about slavery. And a lot of people aren't aware that it started out in Africa. Well, they know it started out in Africa, but it was the tribal chiefs that were going inland. Because when people think of slavery, they think of the, the captains of the slave ships, which is true. But it was the tribal chiefs that were going inland, sometimes 100 miles, to steal the best of the best from each tribe. That's why we say that we're descendants of kings and queens, because they're very strong people. So, and then the tribal chiefs would bring them back to the coast. But sometimes those people were tricked into believing they were going on this wonderful journey. Or if a parent owed a debt to someone else, they would give a child as a payment for that debt. So then they would bring them back to the coast, and then they would house them in slave pens, dig great big holes in the ground, cover them with a grate, and wait for the arrival of a slave ship.
Wow.
And they also
treat them literally like animals.
Oh, yes, yes. And then they would have cells, males and females, and the last thing that they would do, they would give them their last bath. They would take them under this, like an outhouse, like a shower, just a shower nozzle outside, and they would be stripped naked. So in order not to take any diseases on board the ship, that was the idea of their last bath. So they would wait for the arrival of a slave ship. So depending on who had the monopoly, the French, the Dutch, whoever, they would load their ships with goodies and say, how many good, healthy slaves can you get me? So this is one style of a slave ship.
Wow.
This is 2 bunks. Sometimes they were 3 bunks high, but this is 2 bunks.
So a slave would literally sleep in one of these?
Not one slave.
Not one?
Not one. Sometimes 2, 3, 4, depending on how many they had.
Wow.
So this is the exact amount of space they had, 2 foot by 2 foot by 6 foot, almost like a coffin.
Wow.
Yeah.
And how long was the journey?
The journey, depending on the weather, 4 months, 6 months over the Atlantic, and that's referred to as the Middle Passage when they cross that Atlantic. So,
and how many would get to
numbers? You see, it's unknown because people would die on board ships. Some would throw themselves overboard. They're very, I don't know what the correct figure is that people are normally using, but it's high, really high. So if people survived that, they were very, very strong, because the people up on the top bunk went to the bathroom on the people down below.
Oh.
Yeah. And so as these excrements were, not only dripping on you, you had to sit in them and eat while you were there as well. So this is a replica of an auction block. Typical.
So eventually they
would come to the auction block.
Right.
Yes. Sometimes they would sell families as units, or if they could get a better price for you, they would separate you and sell you for more. And if males that might be really strong, and if they had lash marks on their back, they might not purchase them, because there would be signs of an instigator on the plantation with the lash marks, so they might not purchase that one. Yeah.
So what would eventually happen? He'd be killed, or?
No, they would eventually be sold.
Okay.
Or like if you were taking slaves to the market and nobody purchased you, that master would just take you back to his own plantation until somebody did purchase them. Yeah. There's a really interesting slave document that my husband found in researching his book, A Shadow on the Household.
Yes.
Did I mention that?
You have.
When we were in the Library of Congress, and it has the names of the slaves, their age, and their value. But what's really interesting is the criteria that was set down to determine how much everybody was worth. They would look at your hair color, your skin, if you had, how many digits you had, lash marks, how many children. It was just amazing, And 0 to 8, you were fairly costly, but 8 to 16, that's when they were very, very expensive. Excellent reproducers, both male and female. It was just astonishing. By the time
you're talking about age, 8 to 16 is
years.
Yeah.
Yeah. By the time they were 40, they were, not worth very much at all. Slaves were like a commodity. There's no differentiation between, I've got cattle and oxen, you know, and this fine linen. And I also have, you know, 6 healthy Negro slaves. It's, everything is one great big commodity. You know, it's that, yeah, it's kind of, yeah. This is a replica of a plantation, just to give people an idea of where everything was situated. You know, the big house, if you will, and then the cabins where...
And the cotton fields.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. And this is a picture with a... Where's the... There he is, the slave, or the overseer. Yep, the overseer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Watching everybody. And I saw cotton for the first time maybe 3-4 years ago in Alabama, because I had never, this is actual cotton, but I had never seen a field of it. And to see how, you know, when you look at their hands, you know, and...
It's hard work.
Oh yeah, very hard, yeah. These are original adult ankle shackles.
Wow.
And adult, this is how big his ankle was. So this piece comes up through here and goes around through here, and that's how much room he had. And we have a
That's nothing.
I know. On an adult. That would not fit on any adult today.
No, it wouldn't.
Yeah. We have original children's ankle shackles, but they are on loan to the library for an exhibit for the month of February. And this is a replica of a slave collar. Weighs about 25 pounds. So this would go over their neck, like this. And it would fit tight like a choker necklace. And it would sit on your collarbone right here. And so you'd have to do your chores with this on. They would put bells to hear the slaves running, or fishing hooks that would get caught in the tall grass or the reeds because of the train. But if I was a repeat runner, they would take a metal bar that would be attached to the top of the neck harness, and it would run all the way down your back, and then it would be attached to your ankle shackles.
Just to keep you in check.
Keep you, from running away. Yeah. And we also talk about the resistance, whether it's running away, revolting, or uprising. So these are some of the, like the runaway posters and the reward posters. Some of the people who did that, the Crosswhite family, Sarah and Adam Crosswhite, were fugitive slaves in Kentucky. But they made it to Marshall, Michigan, while slave catchers broke into their house and demanded that Sarah and Adam and the children return to Kentucky with them. Adam was kind of a funny, quirky kind of guy, and he said that he wasn't going to go anywhere. Well, they didn't think that was too funny. So when the sheriff actually came to arrest, no, I rewind. So the slave catcher said, just give us your children. And we'll leave you and Sarah alone, but just give us your children. So Adam said no. So when the sheriff came to arrest the family, they arrested the slave catcher and charged him with housebreaking, battery, and assault. So while it was on trial, some people smuggled them out on a cart, put them on a train to Detroit, and they eventually made it up here to Buxton.
Wow.
Yeah. And this is a Marianne that we talked about earlier, and this is her press, actually, that she had in her home. They lived one lot west of the settlement, so this is what she had in her house to print newsletters and flyers about different people that have arrived here safely, or different meetings that people should attend on how to become self-sufficient and self-sustaining. So this is hers. And this is Reverend King's bed that was hand-carved for he and his first wife as a wedding present. And it's just beautiful. Look at the detail. You know, for, again, blacks who didn't have any skills or talents, they were quite capable of doing this. And actually, this is the only furniture that he brought with him when he came here.
This is all his bedroom furniture? Or most of it? Wow.
In 1849. And this is an 1848 nine-patch quilt. That was made by
1848.
Yes. That was made by one of the women that was living with King as they were coming up here.